Financial Argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Obamacare, how it can be fixed, and all we have to do is let Obama fix it, let other people fix it. We just need to rework it a little bit. But you have to remember, when this was going to be passed, they told us how great it was going to be, how everyone was going to get insurance. I mean, they planned it out, they've done their research, they implemented it, they put penalties on people, they bribed and blackmailed the judge to say the penalties were constitutional. Then that judge left for 2 weeks, where reporters couldn't get in touch with him. And now we see Obamacare is a disaster. I know they're trying to cover it up, saying, no, it's not a disaster, it's fine. I know with the premiums going up, they're saying, well, this is just a small adjustment. Well, a small adjustment is like 2-3%. Something that goes up 30, 50, 60, 90%, it's not a small adjustment. And we know why they have to make the adjustment. Think about it. When they created Obamacare, remember, the insurance companies wrote the bill. Most likely they're sitting around a table, and the insurance company said, listen, and if you know how insurance works, they need a huge number of people to be in the pool for it to work. And they need, if you're dealing with health insurance, you need healthy people in there that aren't going to use the insurance so they can pay for the sicker people. So what they said, listen, the only way this is going to work is that everyone needs to be in. And how do you get everyone in? Because if you leave it up to the people and they say, oh, I don't really want health insurance, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to go into Obamacare. This won't work because we won't have the pool of people. And this is why they came up with the penalty, because they had to force you into it. They needed a mechanism to force people into the pool. Now, what happened was, people said, I really don't care because I can't afford this health insurance. It's too expensive. I won't be able to eat. Because at the same time this was all happening, what was happening? People were losing their jobs. So people rather take the penalty. It's a lot cheaper, especially if you're making less and less money. And then all of a sudden the insurance companies say, okay, we can't continually pay out like this. So we're going to have to raise the premiums to cover our losses of what's going on here, because we don't have the pool of people. And this is why they started out 5%, 10%. And as more and more people were on the health insurance and using it, they had to pay more. Because if you're a person that has cancer or some other type of disease, you hit that deductible very, very quickly, compared to a person who is much younger, who is in pretty good health, will never meet the $5,000 or $10,000 deductible. And that's what they were hoping. And this is why Obama was out there calling for people, the younger people, to come on in. The government will subsidize you. Because this way the insurance companies would be happy. I mean, they don't care where the money comes from the people, from the government. It makes no difference. But now we're at this point where Obamacare is getting completely out of hand, because the premiums are not going up by 10, 15%. They're going up anywhere between 30 and 90%, depending on where you live. I mean, if you live in Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, it's anywhere between 20 and 29%. If you live in Alabama, Delaware, Hawaii, Kansas, Mississippi, Texas, it's anywhere between 30 and 49%. Arizona, Illinois, Montana, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, between 50 and 92%. New Mexico is 93%. Think about this. And of course, Obama is out there. He calls this the transition, because insurers aggressively priced too low. Well, of course they did, because their projections on the number of people that were going to be in this pool was much, much higher. It's not even close. This is why there is a problem. Because people were not getting a benefit. It was written to benefit the insurance company and to benefit the government. And when you do something that doesn't benefit the people are going to speak out in all different ways. And one of the ways is, we're not going to purchase this. And that's how you know you have a bad product. It's that simple. And talking about bad products, let's talk about the TTIP and CETA. CETA is the same thing, but from Canada. It's the backup plan if TTIP doesn't go through. Well, guess what? Canada's trade minister walked out of talks to finalize a trade pact with the European Union, saying that we cannot complete this deal. And we might as well go home because it doesn't look like the people want this. And the people don't want this because a lot of the information was leaked out, and they realize, again, it is not a benefit to the people. It's a benefit to the corporations. It's a benefit to the central banks. It's a benefit to those at the top. Again, another bad product. People are starting to realize and understand what is going on, and they're speaking out. And one way is to say, you know what, we're just not taking it. So when this war comes up, if millions of people say, you know something, we decided we don't want to go to war. The military says, nope. The people say, nope. Instead, we decided that we were going to change our governments, get rid of the central bank, and restart the system the way the people want it, not the way the elite want it, not the way the central bankers want it. Now, we need everyone together to do this, because if we can't do it, then it will not happen. But we can see right now, this is what governments, central banks are worried about. And this is why they've been spying on people. And especially here in the United States, and don't get me wrong, other countries are doing the same thing. But we can see right now that here in the United States, there's a report out there called the Perpetual Lineup, Unregulated Police Face Recognition in America. And they're looking at this, and they're saying that the United States is, with their different agencies, they are scanning everyone's face and putting their face into a database. And there are hundreds of millions of people in this database. And they're taking it from driver's license, they're taking it from pedestrians just walking around in malls, in the streets. And we can see right now that they did not get permission from the people. And this is a big problem. It's a violation of our rights. We have not committed a crime, but they're putting us in a database because they want to make it easier to track and figure out who is a threat to their authority. This is why this is really going on. They're not looking for the Islamic State. They're not looking for Al-Qaeda. They're not looking for Al-Nusra. They're looking at those people who object to what the central bank and what the government is doing. And they're tracking those people because they're very worried that they might do something to remove them from their positions. And this is why they have the scanning of emails, the scanning of your social media, the scanning of tweets, the scanning of texts, tracking every single person. And it's also used to blackmail. So we can see right now they are afraid of the people. And we all need to get together, join hands, and go after the real enemy. that is an out-of-control government with a controlling central bank. Now, the U.S., they are putting the pedal to the metal right now, and they're full throttle forward here in provoking war. Because right now we have U.S. Navy warships. They're out in the South China Sea carrying out the freedom of navigation throughout the South China Sea. Now remember, the United States, they never signed the freedom of navigation. So they have their destroyers, and I'm talking about the U.S. government, who has their destroyers out in the South China Sea. They're sailing through the different islands, the Paracel Island, the Woody Island, which is claimed by China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. And we can see right now the U.S. destroyer also shadowed 3 Chinese vessels. And of course, they said it was all done safely. But we know why this is all being done. This is all being done to provoke China. I mean, look what China did with the Philippines. They had a talk. They allowed the Philippine fishing vessels into this area, and there were no problems. So who is causing the problems in this area? It's the United States. The United States is in this area, which really they have no business being in, because these other countries should be talking to China, not the United States. But the United States is out there, and they're sailing around and saying, we're going to follow these Chinese ships. We're going to do whatever we want. It's the freedom of navigation, even though we didn't sign it. And it's all about provoking war, because the hour is late. The economy is crashing. This debt-based system is crashing. And they know they don't have much longer. So they're going to accelerate the process right now. Now, out in South Sudan, we understand this is one of the countries where the United States government, central bankers wanted to go into, have regime change, but again, it didn't work out. China is involved in this country, and we can see the UN, which is being pressured by the United States, is telling the South Sudanese people, listen, you need to listen to us. You need to take our regional protection force of 4,000, and you need to allow them into your country, or we're going to implement an arms embargo on your country. So we can see already the United States government central bankers, they are pushing for this because they want control of Sudan. And we see once again, the plan didn't go the way they thought it was going to go. Now, out in Iraq, we know the battle there in Mosul is happening. We know the United States government central bankers are moving the Islamic State out of Mosul. Now, they're moving them to Raqqa. And we can see right now that they're moving them to an area, and Raqqa is a U.S. area where they control that entire town. And we see they're moving them from Mosul to Raqqa. Then from Raqqa, they're going to filter them into Aleppo. And it has become very clear that the U.S. is doing this because Russia is noticing it. Other countries like France, they're noticing that the Islamic State is moving out of Mosul into Syria. They might not know the reasons, but they realize that something is happening. And the decision to be moved to Syria was conditional. The United States said, listen, we will move you to Syria, but you will need to fight in Aleppo. And we can see that this is exactly what is happening. We can see that this was the plan from the beginning. And right now, they're trying to build up a force in Aleppo to fight Syria and Russia. Now, we know that this is not going to work out. Russia and Syria, they have the upper hand. Now, we had an incident in Syria with Turkey. Turkey flew in some of their warplanes into Syrian airspace. They caused a lot of damage. They bombed a lot of infrastructure, killed people. And the Syrian government is saying now that if Turkey flies their warplanes into their airspace once again, those planes will be shot out of the air. I think this is exactly what they want. I think Turkey, NATO, United States, they want a plane to be hit, because this way they can call for war. And we can see right now that, listen, if there's a warplane that is entering the United States, you know the United States would shoot it down. Well, a foreign plane entered their sovereign airspace, and they have every right to shoot it out of the sky. They gave them a warning. They understand that if you fly in here once again, the plane will be shot out of the air. Now, the United States government central bankers, most likely, they will have Turkey fly a plane into this area. And they're hoping that Syria follows through, because at that point, Turkey can invoke Article 5, where NATO then joins in and says, okay, you just struck at NATO, and now we will back Turkey up. We will go into the fight. And I think this is starting to look like this is what they're trying to do. Now, about a week ago, we understand that the U.S. government pointed their finger at Russia for cyber attacking the DNC, the election system, and we understand that Hillary Clinton, during the debates, continually mentioned Russia cyber attacking many, many times, supporting Trump. And we know that as we get closer and closer to these elections, we're going to see probably some more events. And during the elections, if it's not going the way they want, we'll see a much bigger event. But we can see today that something did happen in the United States. The eastern part of the United States was hit with a DDoS attack. And many popular websites, you just couldn't get to them. Twitter, eBay, Etsy, GitHub, Vox, Spotify, Netflix, Reddit, PayPal, and many others. People were having problems getting to them. It started at 7 a.m. Eastern Time today, and it hit the DYN managed DNS infrastructure. And we can see right now, they thought they fixed it around 9:20 a.m., but it was not fixed. And 3 hours later, they said that the attack happened once again. Now, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack yet. A government official said the U.S. is looking at all possible scenarios, including possibly a cyber attack, which means within a day or two, or maybe 3, they're going to blame Russia, most likely. But we'll have to wait and see exactly what they do. And what's very interesting about this is that the DDoS attack, it's a lot of traffic hitting an area where you can't get to your sites. It really doesn't damage the site. It really doesn't. No one is stealing information. No one is planting malware on the site. This is a common high-level type of an attack. It's done frequently. And we can see right now, whenever we see something like this, where it is a surface type of an attack, and nothing is really damaged, because we've seen this in the past, most likely this was done by an agency here in the United States. And they don't want to destroy anything. They just want propaganda. And then they want to point their finger, because every time something like this happens and they come out with the answer of who did it within a day or so, you know it's completely fake, phony, and false. There is absolutely no way they track this down so quickly. Because unless it was someone in a basement who doesn't know what they're doing, they tried it for the first time, yes, maybe then. But if it's a state actor, they're going to be going from server to server, from country to country, and you'll never track this down. It is quite impossible, because if they were able to track all of this down, they would be able to stop spam email very easily. They'd be able to stop all these other types of attacks very quickly. But you can see right now it's very difficult to do. And it's very difficult for them to try to figure out where it came from. So every time you hear this after a day or so, you know it's completely fake. But we can see why they're going to be using this propaganda. And when you look at the internet traffic website, internettraffic.com, you can see that, yes, there were outages on the eastern seaboard because of so much traffic hitting these websites. And this is from the DDoS attack. And there was packet loss and things like that. So we can see right now they're most likely going to use this propaganda to show that Russia is cyber attacking. And this looks like this is in preparation for the elections coming up. Because as we know, if it doesn't go the way they want, they are prepared and ready to say that these election numbers that are coming out right now can't be real, because